Welcome to GermiNation, the podcast where seeds tell their stories. I'm your host, Cindy Hicks, coming to you from the Iowa State University Seed Science Center, a global leader in seed research, education, and outreach. Each episode, we dig into the beauty, wonder, and science of seeds, those tiny little powerhouses at the heart of agriculture, biodiversity, and global food security. Through conversations with scientists, farmers, industry leaders, and change makers around the world, we explore how seeds connect us, sustain us, and shape our future. This is GermiNation, where every great story starts with a seed. Are you looking to level up your seed conditioning skills? Join renowned seed conditioning expert Alan Gall this summer at Iowa State University's Seed Science Center. Get hands-on training in cleaning, gravity separation, color sorting, seed treatment, and more. Learn from the best in the industry and take your seed knowledge to the next level. Register today at seedlab.iastate.edu.
Hey, little seed. What do you need to help you grow?
Today we're digging into one of the biggest policy conversations impacting agriculture and the seed industry, the Farm Bill. The House has passed the first new Farm Bill since 2018, and now the Senate is facing a tight deadline to amend and pass the legislation before the fiscal year ends on September 30th. If they can't get it done in time, Congress may once again have to extend the 2018 Farm Bill for another year. Joining me today is Janae Brady, one of the leading voices helping guide agricultural policy discussions in Washington, D.C. Janae joined the American Seed Trade Association team in 2020 after serving on the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry for Chairman Pat Roberts of Kansas. During her time on the committee, she advised on issues ranging from international trade and biotechnology to crop protection, agricultural research, and agricultural defense. She also played a key role in negotiations for the trade and research titles of the 2018 Farm Bill and represented the chairman during consultations for major international trade agreements, including the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Today, Janae will help us break down what's happening with the Farm Bill, why it matters to the seed industry, and what the coming months could mean for agriculture across the United States. Let's dig in. Janae, thank you for joining me on GermiNation. It's always a pleasure to talk to a fellow Kansan.
Great to have this discussion.
Yeah, so you grew up working on your family's wheat and sorghum farm in the beautiful Sunflower State. What part of Kansas were you in?
I claim all parts. I actually grew up in southeastern Kansas, but my family still owns and operates our wheat and sorghum farm in western Kansas, so opposite ends, about as far in either direction as you can go. And then I also spent some time teaching high school in Wichita, so I claim many regions of Kansas.
I grew up in Butler County, which is just to the east of Wichita. So let's just start talking seed and Farm Bill. How would you describe the overall impact of the new Farm Bill on the U.S. seed industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest overall impact for agriculture and particularly the seed industry with all farm bills is really certainty. Ultimately, the Farm Bill package that covers a whole host of ag policies from commodity programs, research programs, trade programs, conservation programs, farm credit. I mean, there's so many different areas that this touches. What it provides is a generally 5-year, give or take, certainty in agricultural policy that allows producers and allows agricultural systems and businesses, everyone up and down the value chain, to plan accordingly and to try and have a framework in place that enables them to overcome the many challenges that we regularly face.
Which sections of the Farm Bill are most important for seed companies and why?
There's so many sections that touch the seed industry, but as we have put our priorities together, we have really honed in on the research title of the Farm Bill, the trade title, and the conservation title. I know we'll get into a lot of details on some of these programs, but of course, research programs drive innovation and drive the work that the seed industry does, and the research authorities and the Farm Bill are really important in that. The trade title authorizes export programs and a number of trade programs that support agricultural exports and global movement of seed. And then, of course, the conservation programs. The seed industry is a huge supporter of conservation programs in the high-quality, professionally produced conservation seed that we produce that supports many of these programs.
The Senate is likely to make some big changes to the Farm Bill, but as it is right now, how could the new Farm Bill affect agriculture research and innovation related to seed development?
Yeah, many of the research provisions in the Farm Bill support work of both the public and private sector for the seed industry, and programs across the board from USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, Agricultural Research Service, whether it's grant programs or whether it's in-house research programs that USDA is driving. Those programs are really foundational to a lot of the work that the seed industry does, that plant breeders rely on. There are a number of really specific issues that might delve into, germplasm research or things that are really direct to the seed industry. At the same time, it also supports all of our land grant universities and many of the academic institutions that our private companies work hand in hand with, and that our public industry, of course, utilizes to drive research as well. So there is really a sort of countless list of research programs that we rely on in the Farm Bill.
So from old to new, are there any changes in funding for plant breeding, seed technology, or public research institutions that concern ASTA?
Yeah, we really look at it across the board. Most of our priority programs in the Farm Bill are authorizing the program, so providing the authority for those programs to exist. But that's really only the first step. Simultaneously, there's an effort through appropriations bills to actually fund many of these programs. Research programs over really the last couple of decades have remained relatively flat, or maybe seen some gradual increases, but it's been pretty slow process to try and build out and support and increase research funding. And in fact, as we've looked at some of the most recent appropriations cycles, and some that were ongoing or currently ongoing right now, we've taken some steps backwards, and we're actually starting to see some reductions in funding. So that is concerning to us, and that's something that we want to ensure that trend doesn't continue. And ASTA is constantly advocating. I would argue we're one of the loudest and leading voices on advocating for increased and robust support for agricultural research funding.
Besides ASTA, what role does the seed industry play in shaping the Farm Bill discussions and policy priorities?
Yeah, I think this is one of those areas where I can especially bring a unique perspective, because as you mentioned, I actually came from Capitol Hill, worked on the Senate Ag Committee, worked on the previous Farm Bill, and I worked hand in hand with ASTA when I was on the Senate Ag Committee, working on policies that impact the seed industry. So I can vouch for both sides, the role that ASTA plays and that the seed industry plays in Farm Bill discussions. We have, for the past, since I've been at ASTA, we've been working through our membership process to identify all of those priorities, to really figure out what are the provisions and the topics that are of most importance to our membership and to our industry. And then we have turned and advocated on those priorities. And we do that in a number of ways. We do that through conversations like this. We do this through direct lobbying on Capitol Hill and with USDA and other agencies to make sure that we're educating on our priorities. We bring our members in, and we have industry-wide fly-ins. We'll bring folks to Capitol Hill and let them speak for their direct operations and their direct experiences. We've testified in hearings. We've written, comments and statements, and we've really tried to explore just about every avenue to ensure that our priorities are included, and that folks really understand what we need in the Farm Bill to support our industry.
Do you think the new Farm Bill could create new opportunities for independent seed companies and family-owned businesses?
Yeah, new Farm Bills often provide new opportunities for companies of all sizes, and certainly family-owned businesses. And one of the unique things about Farm Bills is that some of the programs have been carried over decades, going back to even post Dust Bowl era. Some are new in every Farm Bill, and what that means is that every single time a Farm Bill is successfully passed, there is an opportunity as USDA goes to implement new rules or to stand up new programs. There's an opportunity for people who maybe haven't utilized those programs before, or companies that haven't utilized those programs before, to have access to them. So that's something that we look forward to once we have a successful bill in hand. ASTA looks forward to engaging with the department as new programs are being stood up to learn about what some of those new opportunities are, and to provide educational opportunities for our members. Like you mentioned, maybe some of our smaller independent companies or businesses that don't have in-house, Washington, D.C. representation. We hope to be able to try and connect some of those dots and provide some of those opportunities, make some of those opportunities a little bit more available to our membership.
How might crop insurance or commodity programs impact farmers' seed purchasing decisions?
Crop insurance and commodity programs are really critical, a really critical piece of our agricultural infrastructure. These programs allow farmers to rebound quickly after disaster strikes, and allows producers to continue their operations into the next growing season and into the future beyond that. And one of the first things that they have to do is make decisions for the next planting season, like purchasing seed. So if you don't have the risk management tools in place to be able to quite literally weather those storms, then farmers are not going to be able to move into the next round of identifying, what to do to be able to produce the necessary inputs like seed. So protecting the farmer safety net is absolutely crucial in supporting farmers and supporting seed producers and businesses and the broader agricultural and food system.
You mentioned conservation a couple of minutes ago. Are there provisions in the Farm Bill that support climate resilience, sustainability, or conservation through seed innovation?
Absolutely. There is a conservation title, of course, that supports a number of conservation programs. Many of these programs were actually previously funded. We're in a unique Farm Bill cycle right now where some of the programs have been previously funded through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act or other previous legislation. And many of those programs, like the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or EQIP, or Conservation Stewardship Program, CSP, RCPP, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, many of those programs have been supported. There are some that still need to be addressed, like the Conservation Reserve Program. And the foundation for many of these conservation programs is high-quality, professionally produced conservation seed. That is a really major factor in being able to improve soil health and so many of the goals that conservation programs are seeking after. At the same time, many of the research programs are supporting these efforts to ensure that seed is high quality and that it meets the needs of producers. So there are NIFA programs that are supporting research into cover crops and variety testing and making sure that we have a number of varieties that meet the needs of individual producers in their regions and at their operation. So again, across the board, the different topics of the Farm Bill, like research and conservation, really work hand in hand to support these programs.
So how could the Farm Bill affect international seed trade and export opportunities for U.S. companies?
Yeah, the trade title in the Farm Bill is a really critical piece for the seed industry and certainly for the American Seed Trade Association. It supports a number of export programs, primarily the Market Access Program, or MAP, and the Foreign Market Development Program, FMD. MAP and FMD are some of our largest export programs that support expansion of U.S. agricultural exports. The seed industry relies heavily on these programs to support our efforts in encouraging the global movement of seed. So we have a number of projects happening around the globe that support seed trade and global movement of seed, and much of that work is really driven by these Farm Bill programs. The Farm Bill provides opportunity to increase and grow these programs, grow the funding into these programs. We have seen growth in these programs in the last couple of years that has it's taken a while. It's taken a lot of advocacy to talk about how important these programs are. But the current Farm Bill that just moved through the House and some of the previous efforts that we've seen in the last couple of years, they've really taken some large steps to grow that investment into these programs and support these export efforts. So that's something we're really excited about.
And related to international seed trade, of course, is seed health. How important is federal support for seed health, phytosanitary programs, and systems like certification and testing?
It's critically important. These programs are the first step in protecting our ag and food supply. Our ability to quickly test and detect plant pests or diseases that plays a major role in our ag biosecurity. And there are a number of Farm Bill programs that support these efforts, but in particular, programs like the National Plant Diagnostic Network are intended to support testing and certification and diagnostics. There is absolutely still work that needs to be done in this space in terms of resources to make sure that they're able to function at adequate levels. So that's something that we're looking to continue advocating for, but that's absolutely an important part of our industry.
What are the biggest regulatory challenges facing the seed industry right now, and does the Farm Bill address any of them?
Some of them, yes. So there's a number of regulatory issues that we are tracking closely and working to improve. And the Farm Bill can be limited on how much regulatory impact that it can have for a number of reasons, whether it's jurisdictional, whether it's what authority they've actually legislated previously. But I think for us, and ASTA certainly been paying historically a great deal of attention in this space, but most recently we've expanded our own crop biotechnology work in recent months. So something we paid a lot of attention to. One of the most significant pieces regulatorily that we have been paying attention to is the current draft of the Farm Bill includes a provision that would clarify EPA's regulatory scope and remove excessive burdens for plant breeders, particularly for certain gene-edited products. ASTA worked very hard with industry, with EPA, with bipartisan Republican and Democrats to garner support for this provision. And we really look forward to getting that to the finish line. So that's probably the biggest regulatory piece that we're tracking right now.
What should farmers and consumers understand about the connection between seed policy and food security?
Yeah, if you've engaged with ASTA previously in any way, you've very likely heard the phrase ASTA promotes the development of better seed to produce better crops for a better quality of life. And that really kind of lays out the answer to that question. We advocate for policies that allow our industry to successfully operate and provide high quality, professionally produced seed that in turn supports our farmers and growers as they work hard to produce the safe and affordable food for our nation. So when we say it all starts with seed, it's really not an overstatement. Our seed industry is such a critical part of the food and ag value chain and really is the foundation for protecting food security.
Looking ahead, what policy areas does ASTA believe still need attention beyond this Farm Bill cycle?
I'm really glad you've asked this question because we are, while focused on the current Farm Bill, we're also looking far ahead to see what's next and what our next steps should be. And while we're not quite across the finish line with this Farm Bill, one of the major priorities that we are paying attention to is the National Plant Germplasm System. We often refer to this as the crown jewels of our industry. This is the system that collects and evaluates seeds and plants and conserves and distributes plant genetic material that's absolutely essential to our farmers, our plant breeders, our researchers, and our companies. You mentioned the 2018 Farm Bill, and in that previous bill, we passed language that required USDA to look at the National Plant Germplasm System, produce a report on what steps need to be taken to strengthen and modernize this system. It took quite a while for that report to actually be public, and now that we have it, it is a very robust report. We've been going through it and having a lot of conversations over what are the next steps and how do we actually start the process of strengthening and modernizing the NPGS. So that's really, I think, our next big goal, and it's something that's probably going to bleed into the next Farm Bill process. So maybe some different legislative vehicles in between. But we're gathering ideas and working through our membership and trying to put a plan together, focusing on that right now.
Wrapping things up, for those interested in agriculture policy, what advice would you give about getting involved in advocacy for the seed industry?
Yeah, I think the first piece of advice is really just that it's get involved. I think that this can be kind of a intimidating world if it's not something that you have had exposure to. But there are so many opportunities, whether it's through associations like ASTA, whether it's through other commodity organizations or associations. There are so many programs, including ASTA, that have student programs that are really focused on mentoring and developing students. And then through our typical activity, I mentioned that we have had fly-ins historically and things like that. Those are really incredible opportunities to just get some exposure, to go do a day or two on Capitol Hill and get into some offices and start talking about issues. And it's a great learning experience about the system, but more than anything, it just kind of, I think, helps people understand how accessible it really is to be able to engage on issues and to talk about policies that are important to you and to engage with your congressmen and women and elected officials, because they really do hear and listen to constituents. And again, I say that from my previous role of meeting with constituents and hearing about issues, and it really matters. So I would strongly encourage that. And if you're really not sure about where to start, I just can't strongly enough say start with ASTA, reach out to us and see if there's a place where we can help you get plugged in. We also offer internships and other programs as part of our meetings throughout the year that are really focused on students. So there's a lot of opportunities out there.
Well, I'm sure there will be many more conversations about this topic at the 2026 ASTA Leadership Summit that will take place June 9th through 11th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There's still time to get registered for that conference at betterseed.org. So I hope to see everyone there. Janae, thank you for joining me today on GermiNation.
Thanks, Cynthia. It was fun.
Thank you for tuning in today. We'd like to give a special thank you to Let's Roll Snowball for allowing us to use the seed song. If you enjoyed it, be sure to check out Let's Roll Snowball on YouTube for more fun and educational songs for children. GermiNation is a podcast produced by the Iowa State University Seed Science Center. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Iowa State University or the Seed Science Center. This podcast is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Thank you for listening to GermiNation, where every great story starts with a seed.